I studied at a small high school for few years. The building was pretty new and in good conditions. My classroom was fine, no paranormal vibe at all. At first few months into the school year, I brought in two portraits of two politicians to hang on the wall. One man and one woman. I hung them on two pieces of metal drilled into the wall using round hooks. One of them, the portrait of the woman, kept falling off the wall. I had carpeted fall, so it wasn't damaged, just annoying. My coworkers joked that a sexist ghost was haunting my room. None of the windows in this entire building could be opened, so I couldn't blame on the wind. And they fell when I was in the room with the door closed, so I literally had no idea what caused it. One day I was not in the mood, so as soon as I heard the portrait fell one more time, I cursed the ghost, saying it was disrespectful toward the female activist. By the way, I didn't actually believe there was a ghost haunting my room. I just yelled into the void out of frustration. After that, the wall clock that had been fine suddenly began to fall down multiple times a week. One day, one of my coworkers, whose room was next to mine, pulled me into her room and told me this. Both of our rooms were probably haunted. The person using the room before me was very uneasy and always found excuses to not be alone in the room. Before I came, her room was very haunted. One time, the hallway camera captured footage of the doorknob turned by itself while absolutely no person was ever near that wing. After I came, my room became the active one with all the stuff falling off the wall. I was moved to a different room the year after and never had an issue. Later, I found out that the school building used to be a dingy orphanage. There is this one haunted suite in one of the old dorms. It's completely blocked off. The only way you can break in is through the suite next to it, which ironically was a designated part suite. A student ended their life in that suite around 30 years ago and has haunted it since. Eventually, none of the other suite mates or anyone else could live in it, so the college blocked it off. My friend once sneaked into that suite with a bunch of other people. She said the whole place was empty as expected, except there is a single chair in the middle of the common room. That chair was said to be there so that student spirit can sit and not bother people around. Some people said it was the chair the student used to hang himself. My friend and the other people bought an Ouija board with them and used to talk to the spirit. They didn't get any concrete answers, but could confirm through yes or no questions that they were indeed talking to their student spirit. Before they could ask many questions, a door violently slammed itself in front of their faces. Absolutely no winds, since the entire place was sealed off. And they would check every single room to make sure no one was there when they came first in. At that, they bloated. My primary school was organized around a parade square. To the west was the main school block, to the north was the school hall. The school field lay to the east and the public roads channeled students, teachers and parents into the parade square from the south. When I was in primary 2, a schoolmate passed away in traffic accident. She had been playing in the parade square in the evening and one of the school buses had driven just a little too fast. It took the school cleaners more than 2 days before they could fully flush the body splatters away from the parade square. I recall the atmosphere at school being muted for a while after the tragedy. School assemblies were toned down, festivities were kept to a minimum, and every day bright orange cones would go up in the parade square in the evening to remind us of where we could queue up and where was off limits. There came a day when the principal shared with us over the morning assembly that he had received a call from a concerned parent who claimed that the children are playing in the parade square again. Apparently, the parent had almost hit a girl who was skipping across the parade square, but had fortunately severed away in time. As you can imagine, the school doubled down on the reminders for us to observe road traffic safely. Even more stringent procedures were put in place. We were to queue up within the school hall and a teacher had to be present to guide us up our respective buses. PE classes were banned entirely from the parade square in an effort to drive home the point that the parade square was strictly off limits. But the complaints didn't stop. Rumors went that the school kept receiving complaints of children running around in parade square. The calls and letters came infrequently, perhaps once or twice a semester. I suppose in the modern world, security cameras would have been installed fairly quickly. But in those days, the teachers simply took turns keeping watch over the parade square. That never stopped the complaints though. The school was eventually turned down when wide-ranging renovations took place. I visited the new campus a number of times later and managed to catch up with some of the other teachers who had stayed on. One of them shared an interesting nugget with me. Apparently, in the midst of tearing up the weathered tiles of the parade square, the contractors found a single skeletal finger. If the stories are to be believed, the finger bone belonged to the schoolmate who had met her end under the wheels of the school bus, torn apart from her at the point of impact. It had somehow lodged itself under the tiles, away from prying eyes. As far as I am aware, there were no more complaints of school children running where they should not in the new campus. Things were finally at peace. This story happened to a senior of mine back in secondary school. The school was passed around rather quick after the incident. My school was having their annual camp, and my senior, let's name him Jay, was well known to be the prankster, like to disturb other kind of people. During the camp, the boys would sleep in a different building than the girls. One of the night, the mischievous Jay got up and went to disturb the girls. The students slept in the classrooms, so Jay stood up in front of the window of the classroom and watched the girls who are still awake, pretending to be a ghost figure. The girls just shoved him off and asked him to leave, so he did. Minutes later, the girls saw another figure standing at the window, looking in. It stood there for quite some time and eventually left with one of the girls started crying. Next morning, friends of the girl who cried confronted Jay, but Jay just told them he only did it one time and went back to the classroom.